All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, everybody. We'll now reconvene out of closed session. City Attorney, any announcements tonight?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, there's no announcement out of closed session this evening.
All right, very good. With that, the special meeting is adjourned. We'll move on to our regular meeting for tonight. Tonight, the invocation will be Councilmember West.
Thank you, Mayor. I am really, really proud to be able to do this particular invocation. It's about a man who I think made great changes and did amazing things. And I think it was Benjamin Franklin who said, either do things that are worth writing about or do things that you create that somebody else will write about, and then you live in history. And this is a man who did that. And he was born March 31st, 1927 in Yuma, Arizona, and it was Cesar Chavez. He was born to a Mexican-American family and began his work as a manual laborer before spending 2 years in the United States Navy. Although Cesar Chavez Day is not until the end of this next month, I wanted to take a moment to just honor this man as the great leader, and he was an advocate for justice. Cesar dedicated his life to promoting the rights of farm workers and other marginalized communities. He was a man of conviction. He believed in the power of peaceful protest and nonviolence. He led the United Farm Workers Union, which was formerly known as the National Farm Workers of America. He fought for better working conditions and higher wages for farm workers. There were tremendous inequities for farm workers at that time, and his message resonated with people all over the world, and his activism led to real change that you can still see today. His effort led to the passage of the Agricultural Labor Relations Act in California, which granted farm workers the right to collectively bargain with their employers. Chavez's influence extended beyond labor rights. He was also the champion of civil rights and believed that all people, regardless of their race or ethnicity, deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. His tireless advocacy helped bring about changes that continue to benefit society. And as he famously said, we cannot seek achievement for ourselves and forget about the progress and prosperity of our community. Cesar Chavez passed away in his sleep on April 23, 1993, at the age of 63. That following year, President Bill Clinton awarded him posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civil award. We can honor Chavez's memory today and every day by working toward a world that will reflect his vision of fairness and equity for all. He was a great man, and we should be proud that he was here in California. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. With that, we'll call the meeting to order. City Clerk, get the roll call, please.
Councilwoman McLean.
Here.
Councilmember Miranda.
Here.
Mayor Gibbs.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Smythe.
Here.
Councilmember West.
Here.
Thank you much. Councilmember West, would you mind leading us in the flag salute?
If you please all stand.
Thank you.
Put your hand over your heart, and please join me in pledging allegiance to our great flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll move forward now with our executive meeting. Council, are there any questions on any of the agenda items tonight? Okay, seeing none. No items wish to be pulled. Very good. City Clerk, do we have any speakers on consent tonight?
Yes, we have a speaker for item 5.
Item number 5.
We have another one for item 6.
Item 5 and 6. Okay, very good. Okay, with that, ask for a motion and second to approve the agenda.
Motion.
All Hearing no objections, it is so ordered. Thank you. We'll move forward with awards and recognition. The first one tonight, we had the recognition of Mr. Aaron Yang, and we were hoping to recognize this young man who has a passion for the libraries and the city of Santa Clarita, but unfortunately, Aaron couldn't make it here this evening, so we're going to postpone this recognition to a future council meeting. And with that, we'll move forward with our second recognition and proclamation for the Zonta International Women's Day proclamation. Councilmember McLean.
It is my very great pleasure to to be able to present this proclamation. Across the globe, women play a vital role in social, economic, cultural, and political development, yet women still struggle against discrimination. Whether it is a barrier to education, a pay gap at work, or inadequate options for family leave. One way to bring attention to this issue is through the observance of International Women's Day. Created in response to oppression and inequality during the early 1900s, women wanted to become more vocal and active in campaigning for change. With support from nations worldwide, the International Conference of Working Women created International Women's Day on March 8, 1910, a day to celebrate the collective power of women, past, present, and future. The theme for 2023 is Embrace Equity. One local organization that works to do this every day is the Zonta Club of Santa Clarita Valley. For more than 100 years, Zonta International has become a leading global organization of professionals spanning 62 countries with over 26,000 members. This organization strives to make gender equality a worldwide reality and has contributed to helping create a world free of violence against women and girls. The city of Santa Clarita joins with the Zonta Club of Santa Clarita Valley to take this opportunity to celebrate and respect the rights for women to lead secure, creative, healthy, and free lives. Tonight, the city of Santa Clarita proudly recognizes March 8th as International Women's Day in Santa Clarita. And I invite all of my Zonta sisters out in the audience to join us up here to accept the proclamation.
Stand somewhere else.
Go in the front, you can do the front row with Marcia, right with Marcia, yeah, come on through.
Which way are you? Right here.
Should we move over? Some of us move to the other side.
Perfect.
Just covering me.
Pin it right up.
That looks weird.
Wait. Let me get out of the way.
There we go.
All right.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Would you like to say something? Sure. Thank you.
Speech.
No. Just stay right here.
Bill's not giving a speech.
Hang there somewhere.
Thank you so much. I'm Nicole Miller, president of the Zonta Club of Santa Clarita Valley. I'd like to thank the city of Santa Clarita for partnering with us for International Women's Day to recognize and honor women's rights. We'd like to thank you very much, and we'd like to thank the community for helping us to build a better world for women and girls. Thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to our presentations for this evening. Tonight, we have the annual update of the Santa Clarita Valley Economic Development Corporation. Tonight, I'm pleased to welcome representatives of the EDC. Since their creation, the organization has been a great partner to the city and is instrumental in attracting, growing, and expanding businesses here in Santa Clarita. Through their efforts, new and existing businesses continue to choose the Santa Clarita Valley as their home, resulting in new jobs for our residents. At this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Holly Schroeder, President and CEO, to the podium to provide an annual update on the SCV EDC's accomplishments and share what's in store for 2023. Hey, Holly.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Holly Schroeder, President and CEO of Santa Clarita Valley Economic Development Corporation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, for the opportunity to report on 2022. Just have a couple of quick slides here for you. In 2022, we were coming out of the pandemic. As you'll recall, it had been a very difficult couple of years for our businesses. So we took on three main initiatives for the year. One was to continue to provide economic information because there was a lot of uncertainty. There still is. So we wanted to put a particular emphasis on that. We also did a survey of our businesses in our target clusters in order to get a better sense of where they stood relative to recovery from the pandemic. And then, of course, we continued our ongoing business attraction and retention initiatives. As a quick reminder, the Economic Development Corporation focuses on these priority industries and sectors. We are focused on the industries and business sectors that will grow the overall economy, that increase the economic pie and increase the economic opportunity for the residents of the Santa Clarita Valley. We partner both with the city and the county in accomplishing this. As I said, one of our initiatives for 2022 was our business survey. Next slide. We did a survey in the first half of the year. We reached out to businesses primarily in those target sectors, and we had over 150 different respondents who responded, plus we did nearly 24 individual interviews with leaders of those companies. Predominantly, again, because of our target focus, we focused on our small manufacturers. 30% of the respondents were manufacturers, and over half of them had fewer than 25 employees. This really represents a lot of the business community here in the Santa Clarita Valley. We have a lot of suppliers into the aerospace and defense supply chain. We have medical device companies, technology companies. These are the ones we targeted in this business. When we asked them about their key issues, the number one issue that they are facing at that time, and it persists today, not going to necessarily be news, like a news flash to anybody, is workforce, right? Is the ability to find workers, train workers, have them meet the changing demands of the job today. There are plenty of other issues that we've heard before around cost of doing business, regulation, taxes. Those were also mentioned frequently, but workforce and workforce training were the number one issues that our businesses shared with us as their concerns. The good news of the survey is that 82% of the businesses we surveyed rated the business climate in the Santa Clarita Valley as somewhat or extremely good. That is an overwhelmingly positive statement and really an endorsement, and certainly consistent with the city's efforts to be named as the most business-friendly city in LA County. Pretty much every time you've been nominated, or every time you've applied, you've either won or been nominated. Similarly, 91% of our respondents rated quality of life in the Santa Clarita Valley as somewhat or extremely good. Again, very positive responses here, and again, that is why we do economic development. It increases the tax base and leads to the ability to continue to grow our infrastructure, our services, et cetera, here in the Santa Clarita Valley. Our ongoing work around business attraction and assistance continued in 2022. We worked with over 100 companies, either on assistance projects or on attraction, retention, expansion projects, resulting in 927 new jobs to the Santa Clarita Valley, 91 individual assistance projects. These are companies that are reaching out to us, asking for assistance to solve problems or connect to resources here in the Santa Clarita Valley. On the next slide, I hid a couple of the logos from some of the key companies that expanded or are coming to the Santa Clarita Valley. DrinkPack, which we attracted actually during the pandemic in 2020, has grown and is now becoming one of the largest employers here in the Santa Clarita Valley. They're a contract beverage manufacturer. A new research center, Amethyst Research Center, has 9 facilities across the state, moved its headquarters here. Valencia Technologies is a homegrown medical device company that expanded significantly, as is LA North Studios, which represents our soundstage and digital media space. And then finally, just at the tail end of the year, we announced that Vallarta Supermarkets, it's moving its headquarters here to the Santa Clarita Valley, bringing between 220 and 250 jobs to the Santa Clarita Valley. As I mentioned, one of the key issues that our businesses are facing and have been for some time is the issues of workforce. In 2019, SCV EDC launched a job board, a free job board for Santa Clarita Valley employers called liveworkscv.com. Here you see some of our stats. We had over 100 employers participate in the job fair that we did in partnership with the city, in partnership with with our job board, and we've seen continuing postings and usage of the site since we launched it. So we saw it was slow to start. We started in 2019, kind of halfway through the year. Not a lot of hiring, a lot of uncertainty in 2020, and then really we've seen usage increase substantially since then. And the final priority that I mentioned for the year was really around economic information. We do hold every year our Economic Outlook Conference. We held that in September. We were back in person with 400 plus people in attendance. Really great information provided there and a great panel discussion amongst some of our business leaders. We produce an economic snapshot every quarter. We issued a talent report that summarized the capacity and talent of the workforce that is available to employers here in the Santa Clarita Valley. And then we compile all of this information and make it available on our website, so it's available to businesses, to leaders, to decision makers, to commercial real estate brokers as our partners, so that it's all available as businesses are making their decision on where to locate and expand. They have all the information that they need about the Santa Clarita Valley. So it was a troubling couple of years, very difficult through the pandemic for our businesses, but really I think we came out very strong in 2022. We're very pleased with where we are at, and really appreciate the partnership that we have. The EDC is a partnership between the city, the county, our academic institutions, and the private sector, really bringing together all of the parties involved in economic development. And really is our secret sauce, is the fact that we work together for a single economic development strategy for the entire valley. So we appreciate the partnership. We're working and prioritizing our work on workforce development. We're working to bring new industrial development. That's probably our limiting factor right now, is that we've had great success, and therefore we have a lower supply of industrial facilities right now. That's something that we're definitely working on both with the city and the county, and we're excited about the prospects to come. And with that, I want to thank you again for your time and your partnership, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good. Thank you, Holly.
Just really quick, as you address the workforce shortages, I assume that's kind of across all industries, all sectors, all levels of employment, because I know that that's something that that we see reports on as well, that is, it's not unique to Santa Clarita, the challenge, right? So I assume, like, so you're seeing it kind of across all metrics.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an issue. It's a national issue. We have seen significant demographic shifts as a result of the pandemic. We've lost millions of people nationally out of the workforce. A lot of that is due to retirements. You just did in the recognition of International Women's Day. We've lost a significant number of women out of the workforce due to the pressures that Councilmember McLean spoke of that women face in the workforce. So we've seen a shrinking of the workforce participation rate everywhere, and so we're not immune from that. What we want to do is make sure that our local residents understand that there's opportunities here. You don't always have to commute to LA, especially as many companies are calling people back into the office at an increased level. We want the great talent and workers that we know are here, living here, to find employment here to the extent that they can, and that's good for everybody in the community and for the economy.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Councilmember Miranda.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on having done such a good job through the years, because I know most of what you bring into the community doesn't take a month or 2 or 10 to get here. So congratulations on that. Congratulations also to your board. I see at least one member of your board
I
here.
should mention, I'm sorry, Co-Chair Calvin Hedman is here with me. I apologize for not saying that at the outset.
And of course to Sue.
As well as members of my team, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so when we talk about the labor force, one of the things that people in Santa Clarita talk about all the time is traffic, traffic, traffic. Are we seeing, because we've just brought in so many big headquarters of companies in the last few years, if not longer, but certainly in the last few years, are we seeing a strong movement for traffic coming into the city versus going out of the city? And maybe that's for the traffic coordinator to answer, I don't know. But are we sending employees out more than we're bringing in, or?
We still, we'll actually ask some of the traffic folks to confirm this, but we still have a lot of people who live in the Santa Clarita Valley who leave the Santa Clarita Valley for their employment. And to some extent, we're never going to 100% change that, right? Simply because of pure numbers, right? We're a community of 300,000 people and there's 10 million people in LA. It doesn't take a lot to figure out that there's going to be a lot of opportunities elsewhere. What we want to do is make sure that we are connecting our workers to the opportunities that are here so that as they go through their careers, they recognize those opportunities, and we're connecting our businesses to the best possible talent that they can get. Now, that said, the entire strategy is around trying to have more and more and more of those jobs so that we can tilt the scale as much as possible. And so new companies such as the Vallarta announcement that I just made, Logic's Federal Credit Union, which was about ready to open prior to the pandemic and then sort of got stalled out there, but is now back in the office there. That's another 600 jobs here in the Santa Clarita Valley. So as we continue to attract these very high-quality employers, that creates great opportunities, and hopefully in time, that starts to really reduce our traffic.
One last question. With Vallarta, are they moving their whole Sylmar operation over?
That's correct.
Including their loading docks and et cetera?
No, this is their office, their headquarters operation.
Just their headquarters.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Moving into office facilities.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Two quick, no, don't go anywhere. I had two quick comments for you. First one is, we often forget when COVID first hit and there was a lot of uncertainty, you were one of the very first who kind of took that plunge and come out and say, we really need to start talking about how we're going to get back to work. And that was not an easy thing to do, and I applaud you for it because it needed to be said at the time. And as you can see, we're still recovering from those effects. So I applaud your efforts there. I wanted to ask one question to you: Is there a common theme to the companies who are looking to move headquarters? What it is they're looking for?
So obviously they are looking for a business-friendly community, and the fact that we have the Economic Development Corporation, that we have the partnership. I'll tell you that when I talk about the partnership between the city and the county and the private sector and our academic organizations as a unified strategy, jaws drop. That's unfamiliar dynamic to see that type of collaboration and people wanting to work together to bring jobs in. So that sort of just that sentiment and that collaboration is really significant. Beyond that, though, I think there's other factors that are coming in. People want to be in a safe community, so obviously the partnership that we have with our sheriff's department is really important. They want to see a good quality of life. They want to see good educational facilities, because they want their employees to be in a place where they feel safe and where they can raise kids and send kids to school, et cetera. So all of the things that we value really go into creating the right mix that creates a good economic development strategy and attracts these businesses.
Wonderful. Holly, thank you for the great work you're doing, and please let us know how we can continue to support you.
Great.
Thank you
very much. Appreciate your time.
Okay, that concludes our presentations. We'll move on to public participation. Thank you, Mary. Okay, our first speaker tonight is Joseph, followed by Stephen Barron, followed by Joe.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Joseph Jassy, Governor of German Auto House. I come tonight invite the City Council and city leaders to celebration 40 years of my business in Newhall and my 80th birthday. So I have an invitation for you, and I hope so I see you there.
Thank you, Joseph. I already RSVP'd.
Great. All right, thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Stephen Barron, followed by Joe, followed by Elaine.
I am opposed to government donating money to any non-governmental entity. You are elected to make prudent decisions about public entities and services and not act as a philanthropic agency. Therefore, I oppose your gifting $2 million to Henry Mayo Hospital. Dale Donahoe, Vice President, Chairman of Mayo Board of Directors, stated at your last council meeting, quote, "I can tell you without a doubt that Henry Mayo needs the money," end of quote. Early in the same meeting, Mr. Steve Petzold stated that Henry Mayo had over $200 million in assets and that the Henry Mayo Foundation has $15 million in assets. Why didn't any of you inquire of Mr. Donahoe if Mr. Petzold's allegations are true, and if so, if these assets are being utilized? Mr. Donahoe further stated, quote, "The governor has initiated mandates that we have to provide care and additional services without the requisite funding," end of quote. Why didn't any of you ask Mr. Donahoe what these mandates were? And if the hospital is financially burdened by them, why is the hospital building surgical suites? Also advocating for the hospital was Marlene Laufer, VP of Marketing and Communications. Ms. Laufer made some outlandish statements. For example, quote, "We manage the budget every day based on our patients and local needs. Every single decision is made by our board of directors," end of quote, period. Considering the board meets monthly, that's quite a feat. It should make us all wonder what Roger Seaver and his staff do all day. Ms. Laufer craftily implied that a well-run, efficient organization deserving of funds is Henry Mayo. Nothing she said justified a $2 million giveaway. Instead of asking probing questions about the project, the council's response was nostalgic and emotional. Councilman Smythe and Gibbs made wishful comments about their family's experience with the neonatal ICU. Councilman Miranda stated, quote, "We want to support the hospital much as we possibly can," end of quote. He then went on a diversion about funding mental health services. Councilwoman West spoke sincerely, stating, quote, "Henry Mayo saved my life," end of quote, and felt the need to support the hospital. However, this desire does not justify an outlay of funds. Councilwoman McLean stated, quote, "I know we're very conservative with our dollars and want to know how it's spent," end of quote. She requested an MOU to account how the money will be spent and requested the city be reimbursed should the hospital be sold. Reimbursed with interest, Councilwoman? I request this body rescind any money allocated to Henry Mayo. If you want to allocate money, give it back to us, the taxpayers. If not, keep the money for a true emergency, in which case it will be better spent than on building surgical suites. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Joe, followed by Elaine, followed by Tony Maldonado.
Yes, how you doing? I was here, brought this issue up first back October 25th about a parking situation on a cul-de-sac, and it was referred to an aide, and he was taking care of it, so to speak. But the issue is out-of-state vehicles from Arizona parked in a cul-de-sac and racing down the street with some of those cars and dirt bikes and tearing up the park that we live, Hysup Park. It's an ongoing issue. He's supposed to pay California fees to switch him over to tags after 21 days per CHP. The regs, the registration enforcement, I can't think of it right now, offhand right now, but we're all fed up with the fact that this guy's storing his vehicles there, and people have gotten ticketed for their trailers or motor homes or whatever, and they, within 24 hours. So the wrong people are getting ticketed, and they're pretty fed up. There's about 14, 13 individuals that we have that like I said, they're just fed up with it. We want something done. If you guys can collaborate with CHP, because once you reside in California or have a job, attain a job in California, after 20 days, you're supposed to register them from Arizona to California or any other state. He's not, we have to pay the state taxes, high taxes. He's got to do the same thing too. We all want fair and equal justice as far as the cars being there. People can't park there. We got family, we got elderly people. They have to park down the block, halfway down the street, or on the other side of the park to walk to the houses here. Friends, family, visitors, and that's not right. We're done with it. I myself have grandkids. It's not right. My daughter has to, or one of my daughters has to park halfway down the street to unload the grandkids at my house because he's taking up all the spots. So if this can be resolved, we'd appreciate that greatly. Again, this is a second issue, second request. And if you can, again, collaborate with CHP and go from there, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Elaine, followed by Tony Maldonado, followed by James Doyle.
Okay, a couple of questions. One, I would like to know, as far as representation, the way the districts have been drawn so far, whether they're in stone or not, I don't know, but what happens at the election time, number one. Number two, I have never seen one person who wanted districts be at any city council meeting. What's going to happen is it's going to be a real clusterfuck, so to speak, but it's going to be a mess for a while. But the worst part is there's no one person who has to answer to everybody in the city of Santa Clarita. So we're back to what happened with the County of Los Angeles and the county supervisors. And they have power apparently over even what the state said, that the counties can do it. So we were stuck with a lot of the COVID restrictions, and thank God tonight at midnight, everything is supposed to be lifted. The state of California cannot enforce any more COVID restrictions. So who becomes our leader and mayor? I mean, Ken, are you going to be the head of everything? I mean, this isn't fair. And we all now become underrepresented for two people who sued. Something is missing here, and I don't know what it is. But two people sued, made a lot of money off of it, and hurt how many thousands of people who live in Santa Clarita, or hundreds of thousands of people who live here? There's something that's not right, and we must have some rights. Joe, I hope maybe you can answer what rights we have. But there's no representation. We have one person representing us and four against maybe what that one person is representing. I mean, then we need one person at large to represent and have to answer to everyone in Santa Clarita, similar to what they do in Los Angeles, if that's what they're looking for. I mean, there's something that's not right here. And as far as the economic development, it's very interesting of what they're saying, but they don't tell you they're not going after a hospital. They're not going after a nightlife here. They're not going after anything. And why don't they get the utilities companies who represent us to get people on the phone so you don't have to spend an entire day on the phone waiting to talk to somebody and then you lose all your day? I mean, what workforce is missing? Maybe if they paid people an earning wage, and maybe if they listened to the people in the city, it would help.
Thanks, Elaine. Tony Maldonado, followed by James Doyle, followed by Mr. Petzel.
Damas y caballeros, mañana nos uniremos para rechazar los mapas de distrito basadas en la raza dibujados por dos grandes racistas locales y su abogado sin escrúpulos. Esta propuesta es un acto flagrante de discriminación que uniría una sección de Canyon Country con Newhall, a 8 millas de distancia en nombre de cumplir con las cuotas raciales. Seamos claros, el plan propuesto es un acto despreciable y racista que desplazaría a los residentes de Canyon Country de su patrimonio cultural, redes sociales y económicas, y representación política. Tenemos que disipar el peligroso mito que de todos los hispanos somos un grupo monolíticos. Nuestra comunidad es increíblemente diversa y agruparnos a todos y suponer que todos apoyamos las filosofías socialistas de estos racistas es una forma de discriminación y racismo. Como hispanos y latinos tenemos que rechazar este plan de mapas de distritos retorcidos que perpetúa la segregación y la discriminación. Tenemos que dar prioridad a las políticas de defender los principios fundamentales de la democracia y la representación igualitaria. Sorry, I haven't done Spanish in ages. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow we will stand together in rejecting the racially based district maps drawn by two local racist bigots and their unscrupulous lawyer. This proposal is a blatant act of discrimination that will create a political ghetto by merging a small section of Canyon Country with Newhall, 8 miles away, in the name of fulfilling racial quotas as requested by these racist bigots. Let's be clear. The proposed plan is a despicable and racist act that would displace the residents of Canyon Country from the cultural, social, and economic networks and their political representation. We must dispel this myth that Hispanics are a monolithic group. I can tell you, we're not. Our community is incredibly diverse, and lumping us all together as assuming as we're all supporting the socialist philosophy of these racist bigots is pure discrimination and racism. As Hispanics, we reject this twisted district mapping plan that perpetuates segregation and discrimination. We demand prioritizing policies that uphold the fundamental principles of democracy and equal representation. On a different matter, we're deeply concerned about the lack of progress on developing a new hospital in Canyon Country. We understand that building a new hospital is a complex undertaking that requires significant resources and time. However, it's unacceptable that the city has wasted more than a decade without taking any concrete actions or developing any plans to address this critical issue, when just a fortnight ago it acknowledged that it can take a decade or two for one to be developed. So why has the city wasted more than a decade to move forward on such a needed service? Our community is facing growing healthcare needs due to the overconstruction of cookie-cutter homes expanding suburban sprawl. Despite this, the city has allocated millions of dollars to pet projects like the Cube and quickly dispersed $2 million from the general fund for remedial works at our local hospital. This allocation of resources is a slap in the face of the people of Canyon Country and the city. Thank you.
Mr. James Doyle, followed by Steve Petzold, followed by Charles Foster.
Good evening. Mayor Gibbs, you recently mentioned in an op-ed that the city holds a 20% operating reserve each budget year, that its CalPERS funding obligations have continually sat near 90% funded, and that its other post-employment benefits obligations are fully funded. Yet, the one area where the city is not making investments is in its workforce, particularly the PTS library aides. Refusing to provide these hardworking individuals with a living wage and to treat them as indentured servants is a major travesty. The average PTS library aide in Santa Clarita made only $15,808 gross annually in 2022, well below the poverty income level of $17,000 for a single person in the Metro Los Angeles area. The city's refusal to provide these individuals with vacation pay, benefits, or the same opportunities for advancement and mentorship as other city employees is an insult to their dedication and service. Other cities such as Burbank, Glendale, Oxnard, Thousand Oaks, and the County of Los Angeles provide their library aides with the living wage, basic benefits, and opportunities for growth. So why not Santa Clarita? Furthermore, I am deeply concerned about the unethical hiring practices within the library. It is alarming that Ken Striplin, Shannon Vonnegut, and Christy Hobrecker showed a consensus to immediately fire a PTS employee in Canyon Country for looking through my locker during my leave in February 2022, and recently fired another PTS employee in Valencia for possible breaching of personnel rules. Yet, these same individuals have turned a blind eye and have fully ignored serious concerns of bullying, retaliation, and corruption in the hiring for passport acceptance agents and library assistant roles, including lying to prospective employees about there being more qualified candidates, and in the end, appointing friends of known acquaintances to the positions when they had very little qualifications for the role, if any. Why haven't you done anything about this? I demand an immediate end to these abhorrent acts and an implementation of a transparent and merit-based process to ensure equal opportunities for all city employees. Any personnel found guilty of misconduct or complicit knowledge in hiring procedures, retaliation, bias, or discrimination must be held fully accountable for violating relevant city policies, state, and federal laws. Retroactive and ongoing consequences must include termination and/or prosecution. I will not tolerate any behavior that violates the fundamental principles of equality, diversity, and inclusion. As members of the City Council, it's your duty to take action to address these concerns. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Petzold, followed by Charles Foster, followed by Jeff.
Yes, members of the City Council, I don't even know where to begin tonight, but I will begin with Mr. Doyle here. This agenda says it's a joint meeting with the Board of Library Trustees, and you are ignoring the plea of James Doyle to provide justice to the employees of the library. I can't believe the silence from all 5 of you. You just gave $2 million to Henry Mayo Hospital that has assets of over $500 million. Their foundation has assets of over $35 million. There's a foundation in San Rafael, California, the Henry Mayo Foundation, that has over $50 million. And yet you take the public assets and you spread it over there cavalierly. I am just shocked. And you think, oh, well, we split it into $400,000 or $500,000 disbursements, so that's okay. The schools in Saugus are under an AB 300 restriction that they will be subject to earthquake, destruction, and those buildings will fall in on our children. Santa Clarita School, Cedar Creek School. Why can't you give $2 million to Saugus Union School District so they can protect the children in our schools? You have no priorities. You come up here and you say, well, that sounds good. Lorene says, put it on the agenda. Oh, yeah. Then, Mr. Donahoe, who funded your campaigns, it's not like you don't know who he is. He gave each of you $1,000. Jason might be exempt from that. But $1,000 to your campaigns, and you just hand over the keys to the city? You let them break open the bank? I don't believe it. So with that I will say that moving over to College of the Canyons, they're planning to build a 3-story, 100-bed animal house dormitory on the corner of Rockwell Canyon and Valencia Boulevard, and none of you has any say in how that's done. You will not have a public hearing about that because you do not have the authority to control. You file a lawsuit against Camp Scudder Scott that isn't even in the city boundaries. What control do you have over that? None. But you're wasting city resources suing them. And you're having them bring in thank you.
Mr. Charles Foster, followed by Jeff, followed by Gina.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm just here to complain about basically how code enforcement officers act when they come out to your house and they perceive it as a nuisance, equipment or appliances in the driveway or wherever. From what I experienced during COVID, I lost my business. It was a fitness equipment, so I had to move all my fitness equipment, like you see in 24 Hour in LA Fitness, into my driveway while I was trying to figure out if I'm gonna reopen my business or sell the equipment. And in the meantime, my neighbor up the street calls and the city comes out, and I explained to the code officer, hey, I'm in COVID, I'm trying to move it all. And I go, why are you out here? And he goes, well, someone on the street. And I go, which neighbor called? And he wouldn't tell me, but it comes to find out that the way you guys set up the law is if one person calls, whether it's on your street or in Canyon Country, Saugus, or Newhall, or even out of state, the code officers have to come and check, which I find completely mind-blowing because it needs to have like 2 or 3 to 5 people that are on your street or within a 5, 6, 7 block radius of your house. Because how could someone out of state or in Canyon Country complain about your house when it doesn't even affect their living? And the way that the law sets up, the guy that called it in, I could give you his address. He is known in our neighborhood as the neighborhood Nazi because all he does is call and call and call, and your code officers know him by name, but I addressed it and they just go about their business. And so when I complained and I came in here to the city, I didn't want to speak to the guy that came out here because when I have a conversation with him and I complained, he comes back, well, I did you a favor when I went and did your complaint. Now do me a favor and move your stuff out of your driveway, which I felt, whoa, that's not his job. His job is to do whatever's told of him, not to act like he's doing me a favor. So I find that alarming. And then on top of that, I went in and talked to another supervisor. He blew me off and sent me down a lower level code enforcer. And then finally someone else came out. He came out and we were walking the city so I could show him, hey, there's a cow in someone's yard. There's a baby elephant, which are code violations, but they let it go. And then I pointed out how many, within my 10 block radius, there were 15 basketball courts, not basketball hoops, not in your driveway, but in the public street. And their answer was, oh, we're working on it. We're trying to fix it. In the meantime, I'm getting fines that have reached over $1,000 for legitimately trying to move stuff out of my driveway. And on top of that, I moved stuff that they were asking me to move, and I put it in storage, and I lost over $10,000 to $15,000 worth of it because I couldn't afford it. So that's why this code enforcement needs to be addressed equally.
Charles, thank you for your comments, sir.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
At any point, I would like to just have an appointment with one of the city council members to address this, how the law is being applied.
Just send us an email, sir.
Okay,
Thank you. Next, we have Jeff, followed by Gina.
Thank you so much. Good evening. My brother will speak afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Imagine that you are in your home and then all of a sudden a bulldozer comes in and just tears it down. That is what is happening in Canyon Country, the Sand Canyon Plaza, Sand Canyon Village project, as it is destroying the mountain, which is forcing mountain lions into residential areas, as there have been many sightings since the start of the bulldozing of the mountains. On the northeast corner of Sand Canyon and Soledad. This is not a mountain lion issue, it's the destruction of the mountain that's displacing them that is the issue. I will show you some pictures. This was on the Nextdoor app. That looks to be about a 6-foot mountain lion. There has been many sightings. Again, this is not an animal control issue. This is the destruction of the mountains. And this is not a coincidence that it happened during the time of the destruction of the mountains. Multiple. Now, I know there's the law that says within 1,000 feet to let residents know. Now, we are beyond that. We are beyond the 1,000 feet. And unfortunately, because of that, we did not know that the bulldozing of the mountain was going to happen. Now, I also was out of town for a while, and when I came back, this was also over a period of time, I noticed that the mobile home park that used to be there is no longer there. And if we're talking about equity today, creating equity for low-income population, it is important that we keep those there, and that we keep that for the people, because we are in this not only displacing wildlife, we are displacing people all in one project. Now, my brother, who will come up and speak next, he saw a baby mountain lion in our family's backyard location. And, you know, it can get your heart rate up thinking about that. And again, this is because of the project that's going on, and most importantly is hopefully for future projects, that when the Planning Commission comes to you, that you make sure to not allow any more mountains being bulldozed down because it heavily affects the wildlife, displacing bunnies, displacing coyotes, displacing mountain lions, and then it comes into residential areas. And mountain lions are not technically vicious. They like to keep to themselves. It's when they're moved and have nowhere else to go. So please, we can prevent future negative impacts if we no longer allow the mountains and ridgelines of the beautiful city destroyed. Please stop from creating a mountainless mountain lions and canyonless canyon country.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you so much.
And our last speaker, Jeff.
Hello, this microphone. Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Codeau. I'm Gina's twin brother. And yes, I'm the one who, I noticed the bulldozing of the mountain near our home, and 2 days later, I happened to be in my backyard, just enjoying. We have a very nice backyard. We have in our backyard, we have we have our fences clear so we can see what's behind our backyard fence. We have a beautiful mountain behind our backyard. And I noticed, I saw it was a baby mountain lion. And thankfully, it wasn't looking, it was intently licking its paw and didn't seem to be noticing me. But I was very close. This thing easily could have jumped over. Mountain lions are dangerous. I slowly backed away, went back into my house. But it needs to be understood that the project, the Sand Canyon Village project, what it's doing, it needs to be understood that it's endangering lives. I mean, lives of pets, children, adults, everyone is endangered. Honestly, it's a very big deal. The project needs to be stopped, and any further projects like this should never happen in the first place. You need to really check. It's fine to, we want to make businesses, shopping centers, that's fine. It can be done in a way that it's not destroying the habitat of these creatures, especially something like dangerous like a mountain lion. It can be done. It can be done around the mountains, that it's, you really have to bulldoze a mountain to do so. And so, it's very upsetting. Anyway, thank you for hearing us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. That concludes our public comment. We also had 3 written cards regarding the parking on Chamomile Lane. City Manager, any comments tonight?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. A few comments. In regards to the parking issue on Chemline, we have been out there. We have talked to the residents. I know that our Community Preservation Officer has a meeting with the gentleman that was up at speaking today. We went out and we have worked with the Sheriff's Department. We have worked with CHP. We actually went out and we towed a few of the vehicles. Unfortunately, the rule says if you are able to prove residency of the state you're licensed in, you're allowed to have your car licensed in a different state. The gentleman was able to produce documentation that he has residency in Arizona, so he was able to retrieve his vehicles. But we have been out there monitoring it extensively. We have towed vehicles in an effort to deal with it, and so we'll continue to work on the issue. Really, one of the most challenging factors is the fact the state vehicle code allows 72 hours of parking on public streets. And unfortunately, it doesn't say how far you have to move in between those 72 hours. So individuals who are aware of that will simply move their vehicles a foot or two and be in compliance with the vehicle code. Staff has been researching options to bring to the City Council to provide some greater enforcement on that rule, and we hope to have that to the council within the next couple of months. But we believe that will at least create greater distance of moving vehicles and not being able to simply play games with the parking enforcement and create havoc for the neighborhood, which we know is happening out there. So, in terms of the code enforcement issue, I know that Tracy, my community preservation manager, will reach out to the gentleman and set up a meeting with him to talk about those issues as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
So is there anything at all we can do about the mountain lion problem, are they really taking down a mountain? Because I know that we're very strict about not allowing that kind of thing to happen. So is it really a mountain, or is it just part of the property? And, you know, I hate to see it. The coyotes and mountain lions are constantly being displaced, and people get upset with the poor animals. It's not their fault. But have we been out to that site and see if there isn't some kind of fencing or something that can be done?
Yeah, I mean, I drive by the site every day. It's a big project. I mean, the council approved the project back in 2017. It's gone through multiple iterations. The site itself was a former mobile home park, but the hillsides around it are pretty, they're mountains. It went through the entitlement process, so ridgelines and all that stuff were preserved, but it is absolutely creating, you know, flatter pads out of areas that are hillsides. In terms of the mountain lions, it's the first thing I've heard about mountain lions and the issues there, so we will talk to staff and see if there's something that can be done about addressing the mountain lion issue, but beyond that, I really don't, fences aren't going to keep them in, so we'll see what we can do.
No, I guess I'm just wondering if there's some place that they can be, that they're able to go rather than into the neighborhoods. I mean, that's still kind of a wilderness area out there, right?
If you, as you go back north, there's a lot of hillsides still back there, yes.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Ken, I mean, that interconnects into about 15,000 acres. There's interconnections from that area. And we've got Conservancy and MRCA and city, and we've got 24,000 acres out there. The Conservancy does monitor the mountain lions. They tag them. And we've been in severe drought for several years, and they've come down. They'll be moving back out into the mountain ranges. We're surrounded by the San Gabriels, Santa Susanas, and the Los Padres, and around our green belt with the Conservancy. You know, we got like 25,000 acres. So as the water comes down and their habitats improve, they will move away. We might want to let the Conservancy know that they've been sighted.
Thank you, City Manager. With that, we'll move on to committee reports. Councilwoman McLean, would you like to start us off?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The first thing I would like to talk about is our One City, One Story program that we have going on. And if you're not taking part in it, you're really missing out. There is a really fun book. It's called Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. And she's an author who has the ability to describe every nuance so that you can picture each situation as if you were actually there. I mean, she's amazing and able to do that. It's an easy-to-read, uplifting, and entertaining story. And you will meet Marcellus the octopus, and he will tell you the story through his eyes. It's really a fun and amazing book. So I would urge you all to take the book out of the library. You can do it on your Kindle or your iPad, and it's really fun. So I would just encourage you to do that. Today, there was a Los Angeles Probation Oversight Commission meeting, and I know we have been very concerned for quite some time about Camp Scott being used as a prison site for violent offenders. And there was an item on the agenda in which they were going to vote, and what it is doing is actually improving existing facilities, which we're telling them to do all along, and they're finally starting to do it. I know the committee was a little frustrated because this has been going on since September 2020, when the state decided to pass a bill to make counties responsible for our youth. Anyway, the recommendation passed with an amendment to include the closure of Central Juvenile Hall and to put the resources to implementing improvements towards the existing facilities. The meeting went on for 2 hours, and at least they didn't mention Camp Scott, but they're looking for long-term solutions, which we really do have to keep an eye on it. And I guess I am wanting to know whether we're able to find out the March 14th Board of Supervisors meeting regarding the CAL FIRE assessments and stuff like that. How soon can we know what the agenda item is? And do we want to send somebody down there to speak? We did send a letter. The letter was really good to the Board of Supervisors, but they're imposing a $100 a year fee on 29,000 homes out here. And the only way to find out if your home is within the fire area that you will be assessed this fee is to go to a public hearing, which we're going to be scheduling. And do we have the date for that yet?
Right now, right now we have the a tentative date for March 11th.
Which is Saturday morning here.
Correct.
Right. So if you received that notice from CAL FIRE that you're subject to an inspection and you feel like you want to oppose that, you need to come to that meeting. Otherwise, you're just going to get charged the $100 this year on your property taxes and $150 next year. So there's lots of fun things going on within the city. And one of the fun things that we're going to be having is the Santa Clarita Cowboy Festival is back. I've been asked so many times about that. It's going to make its way back to the city on April 22nd and 23rd. And its venue is going to be Main Street in Old Town Newhall. This world-class event features all of the wonderful sights, sounds, and style of cowboy life and Santa Clarita's rich Western heritage. Attendees will be treated to a variety of live performances across 3 stages on Main Street, as well as special events held at the Main, the Canyon Theater Guild, and the Newhall Family Theater for the performing arts. General admission to the Cowboy Festival remains free, and there will also be the chance to visit Western apparel and gear vendors and buy delicious meals, including everyone's favorite, the Cowboy Peach Cobbler. Don't miss that one. So for more information about the Santa Clarita Cowboy Festival, it can be found at cowboyfestival.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask the city manager to please update us at some point as to what's going on with the library. This gentleman has been here more than once, and obviously Mr. Petzo, when he spoke about it also. I'm not suggesting you do that now. Please don't. But at some point in time, please give us a better understanding as to why they keep coming back. The other thing I'd like to talk about is the building of a hospital. I don't know that there's anyone on this council that is against building a hospital. Certainly as this population, this valley grows, the need for another hospital becomes more and more apparent. I think the thing to think about is, yes, it takes 10 years or more to build a hospital, but it also, you can think in terms of $1 billion to get a hospital built and staffed, and the cost of running it on and on and on. So the city, our city, cannot do that by itself. Okay. What we can do is we can reach out to the county, we can reach out to the state, we can reach out to maybe private investors. And in that sense, I think we can move at least a little bit forward. But But no one understand, we're talking $1 billion as a starting point to have another hospital. So, I would certainly personally be in favor of starting that ball rolling, that 10 years, if you will. But also, I would be fooling everybody into thinking, oh my God, we're going to get a hospital because Councilmember Miranda is supporting it. It's going to take an immense amount of coordination and funding to get that done. There was something else. Oh, the college. We have no, as a city, and you touched on it again, Mr. Petzel, we have no real say in what the college builds in the college. No effective say. They're entitled to build their buildings. They fund their buildings. They're state funded. The state oversees all of that college. And even though they reach out to us and, what do you guys think, et cetera, they basically have the right to build whatever they want. And they fund it, and I agree with you, it's our tax dollars, but they fund it and they build it. And frankly, where they're going to build that dormitory is a heck of a lot better than where it was originally proposed. So. Well, where was that? Well, that's.
No, I want to know where was that.
Steve?
Okay. So those are the three things I wanted to respond to that were set in public participation. Now I want to talk about some trash talking. As a former basketball player, I'm very familiar with trash talking. Mostly they trash talked against me, but that's okay. But now we're going to talk about the newest Trash Talks video is now available for residents to watch at greensantaclarita.com. There you can find more information about upcoming changes that will affect all Santa Clarita residents regarding residential waste programs beginning in July, including the transition to Burtec Waste Industries as the city's residential waste hauler and state-mandated organics recycling. Learn more about how to prepare for these upcoming changes by visiting greensantaclarita.com. I'm very excited, and we all should be very excited. Tomorrow is March, and March to me has always meant St. Patty's Day is not far behind. Well, the city is running census. We're starting census in March, and the block party returns to Main Street in Old Town Newhall on the third Thursday of every month from March through October. Kick off the outdoor event series on March 16th from 7 to 10 p.m. by celebrating St. Patty's Eve with your friends and neighbors at this free event. Play your favorite pub-style games, listen to live music, grab a drink and a bite to eat. See the full census schedule for 2023 by visiting oldtownnewhall.com. And if you're willing to buy me a Guinness, I'll be at McGinn's right after census. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Mayor Pro Tem? Okay. Councilmember West.
On March 18th, the city is supporting a free shredding event at the Via Princesa Metrolink. It's March 18th. It's from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's a good, safe way to get rid of all that stuff you can't throw in the trash to protect your identity. So I wanted to let people know about that. Very important date tomorrow. So we'd like to let you know and invite you that tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at the Newhall Community Center, which is on Market Street at Pine in Old Town Newhall, there will be a hearing as to how our city will transition from its at-large city council elections, which is where you elect all of us, to the state-mandated CVRA law with the lawsuit that has created the requirement for us to be turned into districts. We understand the frustration with that. Tomorrow there will be ability to look at maps and for you to be heard. I urge every single person, since every single person is in fact impacted by this, you will lose 4/5 of your vote. You will never be able to vote for all of us again. You will only be able to vote for one person in one area ever. It's really important that you come be heard and that you get the facts and the information. We are not thrilled with this situation, and we want you to know what we know. So please, again, tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, Newhall Community Center at Market and Pine in Old Town Newhall. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'll just touch on a couple things. It's been a pretty busy couple weeks. The first big one I want to talk about is it was last meeting, either last or the council meeting before. The council gave direction for having myself pursue a seat on La Casa. And so this is the Los Angeles County Affordable Housing Solutions Agency. And the City Selection Committee went through the process, and they did, in fact, vote to have me as their representative for the first 2 years. We thought it was extremely important to get in on the ground floor as this agency is formed, as they start the process, because I think the reality is they're going to have the significant ability to raise funds for affordable housing. But how they do it and how they demand that the money be allocated is extremely important. And I felt it was important that Santa Clarita, for our size, be on the ground floor to make sure that those allocations, those tax dollars that get built into the system, come back here and allow the municipalities to actually address the problem. Unfortunately, we've commented many times about this before, especially with losses. The one thing the county seems good at is taking your money. Maybe not so much on spending it. So our hope is if with this agency, if the funds come available, that we can get them back to the city so we have the ability to start addressing some of these issues. Had a number of events that I got to speak at. I wanted to thank the city manager and the mayor pro tem. We had the opportunity to meet with the new sheriff, and I thought it was a very good conversation. Mayor Pro Tem Smythe did a great job kind of softening us in, and then the city manager told him what we needed. But it was a very effective conversation. I think he understood and appreciated our dedication to our sheriff's deputies, and we really are behind them, and we wanted to demonstrate that. And while we understand the needs and demonstrate the needs that we need as a city and commitment from him, he understood the commitment that we had for our sheriff's deputies. So I thought it was a very positive meeting. I want to congratulate the Chamber of Commerce for their 100th year centennial celebration. I know that Councilmember Miranda received an award, and Senator Scott Wilk and others received recognition. It was a very nice event. And Bridge to Home had their Soup for the Soul event, which was very nice as well. And then this morning we had the SCV Mayor's Committee Panel on Employment for Individuals with Disabilities. And it was just a great conversation and discussion with a lot of organizations that work with consumers and those with disabilities for job placement and understanding what they can do to increase their chances and roles within our community and with our business community. So it was a great morning event for that. So it's been a busy couple weeks. And with that, we will close the comments and move forward with our first public hearing. So this is the time and place for the public hearing for results of the 2023-24 Community Needs Assessment Survey for the Community Grant Development Block Grant Program. The hearing is officially opened. We will receive comments, questions, and any oral protests from any interested person. When all comments have been received, the hearing will be closed. City Clerk, can you report on the notice, please?
All notices required by law have been provided.
Very good. City staff will now make a presentation, after which the public will have an opportunity to comment. With that, I'd like to turn the time over to Tracy Sullivan, Community Preservation Manager. Go ahead, Tracy.
Good evening, Mayor Gibbs and members of the City Council. I'm Tracy Sullivan, Community Preservation Manager. The item before you tonight is a public hearing to provide the City Council with the results of the Community Needs Assessment for the Community Development Block Grant Program, also known as CDBG. The public hearing is a requirement of the CDBG program. Before we discuss the results of the survey, I would like to provide brief background on the CDBG program. The city receives an annual CDBG allocation of approximately $1.4 million from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. Funding received through CDBG must be used to provide programs, projects, and/or services to primarily low and moderate income residents. As part of receiving this funding, the city is required to maintain certain documents, which include a consolidated plan, also known as a con plan, which is a 5-year strategic plan that establishes the priorities for the use of CDBG funds, an annual action plan, which identifies activities, budget, and goals annually, and lastly, a consolidated annual performance and evaluation report, also known as the KEEPR, which reports on the annual accomplishments of the city's CDBG program. With that, I will now discuss the process of conducting the community needs assessment. As done in years past, city staff created a survey structured around the current comp plan priority areas. The goal of the survey is to obtain needed information from the community to help guide CDBG funding recommendations for the upcoming program year. The survey was made available to the public from October 24th to December 2nd, 2022 via SurveyMonkey. The survey was available in English and Spanish, with hard copies also available upon request. To help spread the word, city staff conducted extensive community outreach. Notice of the survey was emailed to approximately 200 local nonprofits. Information was posted on the city's website, and flyers with QR codes were distributed at the city's libraries and community centers. A press release was issued to local news agencies, and the survey was promoted on social media. Lastly, city staff engaged in door-to-door canvassing of approximately 280 households in low to moderate income areas to distribute flyers and encourage residents to participate in the survey. The community also has an opportunity to provide input tonight as part of the public hearing process. In total, the city received 310 responses, which include 61 written comments. Of the written comments, approximately 1/4 focused on needs surrounding affordable housing and homelessness. Overall, the results of the survey are consistent with past years, with the top 3 needs identified in the survey being items already found in the current con plan. The top 3 needs, organized by con plan priority area, are listed on the slide for your reference. Using the information collected in the community needs assessment, city staff will prepare funding recommendations for the upcoming program year, including award recommendations for CDBG public service grants. These recommendations will be presented for the City Council's consideration in April of this year. With that, the recommendation for the City Council is to conduct a public hearing and receive information regarding the results of the community needs assessment. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. City Clerk, do we have any members of the public who want to speak? Thank you. First up is Tony Maldonado, followed by Elaine.
I'd like to take 10 seconds to say thank you to Councilman Miranda for your words. That's very much appreciated regarding the hospitals. That's all we needed at this given time. I'm satisfied with that. Councilwoman West, thank you again for having the courage to always speak out regarding this issue, regarding districting. I appreciate it. Regarding the recent community needs assessment survey conducted by the city, as per the survey, the city conducted a door-to-door canvassing of approximately 280 households to distribute flyers between October 24th and December 2nd, 2022. Additionally, the city conducted a survey during this period. During the same period, for a political candidate, I personally conducted door-to-door canvassing and surveying over 1,100 homes, including both single and multifamily homes. Furthermore, the team members that I led each conducted an average of 1,000 homes canvassed and surveyed in the same time frame. Given these details, I would like to raise a few queries. How many individuals were employed by the city to conduct this survey? Can the city please explain the criteria used for canvassing, considering only 280 households were actually canvassed during this period, which the number equates to an average of just 10 homes per day? Why does the city consistently deliver poor results regarding surveys or canvassing? And how can anyone accept this as a good faith effort to conduct serious surveys when the city consistently underperforms in conducting surveys? As far as I'm concerned, this is all a mystery. And unfortunately, I believe that we need to take a pause, maybe until next council meeting, to actually discuss this further, because unfortunately, I don't believe we have enough information to make a decision on this. Thank you.
Elaine.
Ditto on all of it. Yes, thank you for speaking out about the hospital. We do partner already with Kaiser, and we do have UCLA. So I'm sure if we really tried hard enough, we could do it. As far as Lorene West, I thank you for speaking out, but no one has ever answered the question to me about what rights we have, because all of our rights have been taken away for two people who are making a lot of money. So I wish someone would answer that. As far as these surveys, I've complained ad nauseum that I've never received any information. And if you're going on 200 homes to represent all these people, do the numbers. I mean, it doesn't add up. And I think you need to survey more people and get more responses. You cannot allow just a few people. We're already being damaged by two people. Why are we being damaged more? I mean, where do the citizens and residents get their protection? I would like to see you people speak up, because this isn't fair. The number of people who were surveyed, that's wrong. And I've done the math every year on the number of people that are around, and it doesn't add up. How are you allowing so few people to make decisions for so many? I would like to hear back from you. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes public comments. I'll be now closing the public comment portion of the hearing. Any questions or discussion by members of the council?
I have observed community block grant funds ever since I spent 7 years working to help the seniors on the Senior Center Board and helped create what they have today. And every year, community block grant funds, there were many agencies that were always talked to, and we always funded some handiworker program, and always went out and found that there were seniors whose homes had serious problems, didn't have adequate hot water, had faulty electrical, had leaking roofs, had yards that were dangerous, doors that didn't open and close or lock, and they were frail and elderly people. So the block grant funds were always allocated toward them, and there has been and will always be a need for assistance with low-income housing, and we have a lot of single moms with lots of issues. So it doesn't take too much rocket science to find what the needs are, because they're there and they're pretty consistent. And I don't know what the rules and regulations are about how many people you have to survey to get it, but I do know that all the agencies that do social service and help people with every problem there you can possibly imagine input. Am I correct? They input to us and say, this is where we see it, this is where it is, this is what we want to let you know. And so they let us know. And it's usually very similar, and of course some things go up and down depending on the financial condition of the economy. But I just want to say it's really good to get these funds out where they're most needed. And I, for one, am glad that we get CBDG funding, and it's more than we used to have. So hopefully you can do more work. But if there's any response you'd like to give on any of that, I know the criteria is pretty strict on what you can do with those dollars.
Okay, very good. Tracy, the only question I have is, I know the presentation tells us how many people ended up providing input. Do we have an idea of how many were reached out to through all the methods that we use, but in terms of responses?
I mean, I think Tracy kind of went over, illustrated the attempts we make.
Right.
It goes out
substantial, I guess.
I don't know that we can quantify how many people see it, look at it. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like Councilmember West just discussed. The people most involved and integrated in those issues are the people that give us feedback. And it may be one person who's providing feedback, but it's a person who represents a whole segment or industry that's providing a service to a population that is greatly needing it. And as as Councilmember West said, sometimes it changes a little bit here and there, or the order of them might change, but there's a lot of consistency on what these issues are over year. And I'll tell you, it's also challenging. You're right, we have gotten more money. We're very thankful that we get this money, because whenever there's a budget issue in the federal government, CDBG is always one of the first things to be on the chopping block. So we've been very fortunate to get these funds. We've been very fortunate to invest these funds in a variety of organizations that provide very needed services. But they are tough too, because any money that comes from the federal government comes with a lot of strings and a lot of regulations. So staff, Tracy and her staff, do an amazing job of doing outreach, trying to get people to participate, getting the money out, and then also helping them as they go through the process of contracting with us and spending the money and making sure at the end of the year they can provide the reports that keep them in compliance with the federal government. So, again, these are very important funds that go to very critically needed places.
Right. Thank you, City Manager. Thank you, Councilmember West, for your comments as well. With that, I'll entertain a motion for the recommended action. Okay. Very good. City Clerk, we call the roll.
Councilmember Miranda,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Smythe, Councilwoman McLean,
Yes.
Councilmember West,
Aye.
Mayor Gibbs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Excellent. With that, we will move to the consent calendar. I believe we had a couple of speakers here as well. Okay, first up on consent for item number 5, Mr. Tony Maldonado. You're getting your steps in today, Tony.
All right. Regarding the purchase and delivery of local and dial-a-ride buses, could the city manager's office answer the question of whether any of these dial-a-ride buses will be used to expand the seriously underfunded Santa Clarita Go Bus program? This vital service currently only has 3 buses to cover the entire city of Santa Clarita. Only 3 out of the 4 buses allocated to the successful program are working, causing unacceptable delays and missed appointments. This program has been a great benefit to many, providing transportation for those who cannot rely on regular bus service. However, the limited number of buses means that wait times can be excessive, and there are times when the service is not available at all due to high demand or driver scheduling issues. It's not just a matter of inconvenience. The lack of reliable transportation has real-world consequences for those who depend on this service. For some, it may mean not being able to make it to an important appointment or events. For others, it could impact their ability to work or attend school. And yet, despite the growing demand for this service, the Santa Clarita Go Bus program remains seriously underfunded. I understand at first it was started due to a grant by the federal government, but hopefully we're expanding that at this given stage. That's what I'm hoping. Given the clear need for this expanded service, it's imperative that the city use any new buses purchased to address the current issues with the Santa Clarita Go Bus program. This means not only replacing buses that are in disrepair or need repair, but also increasing the number of buses available to ensure that residents have access to reliable transportation. The city should prioritize the needs of its residents and allocate resources accordingly, rather than neglecting this critical service in favor of alternative initiatives. I understand that there are competing demands for city resources, but the benefits of investing in the expansion of the Santa Clarita Go Bus program far outweighs the cost. I urge the city manager's office to prioritize the need of its residents by committing to expanding this vital program, if at all possible, and replacing the aging buses currently in operation. By doing so, the city can demonstrate its commitment to promoting accessible, reliable, and sustainable transportation for all residents. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Item number 6, Mr. Steve Petzel.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I believe I should have addressed that to item number 5, but I'll just step in there.
Okay.
I don't understand the whole deal about doing hydrogen buses. This is another one of those quote-unquote green fuel programs similar to your biodiesels. You know, green energy produced from how is the hydrogen produced that goes into these buses? And how much would a bus that ran on diesel or on gasoline or natural gas cost compared to one that you want to buy that runs on hydrogen? But currently, the vast majority of global hydrogen production derives from fossil fuel sources. That's just like all the people that drive these Teslas and they think it's running on the sun. It's actually running on coal and natural gas. Those are not renewable vehicles. Where is the hydrogen coming from that you're putting into this bus? So could you expand the bus service? Could you put people first for one time instead of just going forward with your virtue signaling that this is a hydrogen bus and the only thing coming out the tailpipe is water? You can't build a pipeline to the sun. Hydrogen is an abundant element here in our atmosphere, but how do you separate it out? So those are the questions I'd like to answer. Did we look at cost efficiency? Could we buy more Go buses if they didn't run on hydrogen? I look at $1 million for a vehicle and I'm just shocked. So I'm going to leave it there for right now. I know you're going to do this deal no matter what I say, but it's important that the people realize that you are putting a green environmental agenda ahead of serving the people of the community. Thank you.
Ma'am.
Thank you. Appreciate that. You know, I totally would like to see a lot more smaller bus vehicles moving around that could move people quicker and more easy. I see our 40-foot buses running around town quite empty most of the time. They're quite empty. But I did want to mention here that there's no impact to our general fund. This is federally funded. 80% of it's federally funded dollars. And we're not spending our general fund. We're not spending our community's money. We're complying with federal law and state law, who wants this done, whether we want to do it that way or not. So staff is doing the very best they can in working with state and federal laws and using the resources that they supply, and we have to buy what we have to buy. And I don't disagree with a lot of what the speakers say, but it's what we're told we have to do. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, the speaker, I think, just left. But yes, the answer is yes. The federal government provides mandates. The money comes from the federal government.
Right.
And as I mentioned previously, the federal government doesn't give money without achieving their policy directives and what they want. So the Santa Clarita Transit Program is federally required to go to zero-emission vehicles. Obviously, that can't happen overnight. You see the cost of these vehicles are much more extensive than older technology vehicles. But I also want to note that, sometimes I think these items come on the agenda, and these items don't drop out of the sky. There's been several conversations with the council, with the public, on the transit system and the requirements, the needs, and so on and so forth. So this dates back to the Transit Development Plan, which we do about every 5 years, that we're in the process of doing again, and we will be looking more extensively at smaller buses. But it's always a prioritization. The other speaker that spoke about the Go Bus, we don't disagree. It's just a matter of prioritizing. I think there's a misnomer that public transit will serve every person at any point at their convenience and their need. That's not what public transit is for. That's not what it was ever designed to be. The Go Bus is an experiment that we've been able to do from a grant. The buses that we're purchasing are replacement buses, so we're not buying new buses just to add to the fleet. These are replacement buses, and this is a program that we have. It's 1/12, so we're always constantly replacing the fleet over periods of time based on the federal amount of money we have. If we stop doing that, then our buses run out of service. And so while I don't disagree with the need for greater service, it is a prioritization and it is limited funding. So.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay. If there's no more comments, I'll take a motion on consent.
Move it.
Second.
So moved and second. City Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilwoman McLean?
Yes.
Councilmember West?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smythe?
Aye.
Councilmember Miranda?
Yes.
Mayor Gibbs?
Aye. Very good. That concludes consent. Any more public comments? Okay.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
before we close, just one quick thing. I want to answer Elaine's question about who makes these decisions and what rights do we have. men and women are elected to serve in Sacramento. They sit around and they come up with these rules and these laws that affect every single one of us.
Not all of them. Not all of them.
No. Okay.
Not the
Let me
current,
say.
retired, right.
No,
right. Some that are
You're
retired.
absolutely right. There are some who have some common sense in
Thank you.
Sacramento.
Right.
I'm talking about those who don't. They sit around and they decide to pass these laws that affect all of us and tell us what we can and can't do. What needs to happen is they need to be looked at with their records and questioned as to, once they get in Sacramento, do they forget that they came from local government? And do they forget that they shouldn't just be passing laws to take away our rights and your rights and the city's ability to serve you? So people need to, number one, start looking at Sacramento and the laws that they're passing and the people that are passing them and speak up. Number two, they need to decide who they're going to vote for. Are you going to vote for someone who continuously takes away your rights and our rights as a city to serve you? Or are you going to do something about it? It's not going to change ever if people keep voting for the same people all the time that are taking away your rights and the city's rights to serve you. The CVRA lawsuit, for instance, it comes all from Sacramento. It was all passed up there, and they have decided, along with certain judges, that we have no say, which is really unfortunate. I believe that if we would have started fighting it, if every city that was forced to do this and every entity that was forced to do this started fighting at the beginning and started making our voices heard, maybe we would have some rights. But nobody said anything, we just comply, which is very sad. So I just had to address that thing. We're very frustrated, and tomorrow night we're going to be sitting there being frustrated as well. Okay. We're going to give you all the information we can and try to make it as easy and as transparent and as viable as we can. But they've taken away our rights to do what we need to do here for our residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilwoman. Ladies and gentlemen, with that we're adjourned. Have a good night.